G'day friends, it's Andrew here from Nature's Image Photography, and if you're a regular viewer you'll know that I just recently put out a video about the super high speed pre-burst mode on the Panasonic Lumix G9 Mark II. Well, between when I started making that video and when I finally uploaded it, I learned that Panasonic have released a new firmware update for the Lumix S5 Mark II that includes, among other things, a super high speed pre-burst mode for that camera as well. Now, I'm not going to make that same video all over again for the S5ii because apart from one detail which I'll mention soon, the pre-burst function operates almost exactly the same way on both cameras. So if you're interested, I encourage you to check out my previous video, and you can apply what I said about the G9 II to the S5ii as well. But it did occur to me that it's been years since I last made a video about how to update the firmware on your Lumix camera. So in this video I'm going to update the firmware on my Lumix S5 Mark II from version 2.2 to version 3.0, and I'm going to show you every step of the process. As always, if this is the first time you've seen my channel, be sure to subscribe for lots more Lumix content, and if you really find this video useful, you can always thank me with a coffee, and you'll find the link in the information below. Now the update process I'm about to show you can be applied to almost any recent model Lumix camera. But before I get to that, I do want to do a quick outline of what's included in the firmware update on the S5ii and the S5ii. So if you've got a different camera, or if you're really just here for the update process, you might want to skip ahead a bit. So let's go through the list of upgrades in the new firmware. First up, and this is the one I mentioned in the intro, we have a new super high speed pre-burst mode. It operates just the same as on the G9 II, except that it's limited to a single burst rate of 30 frames per second. Where the G9 II offers 20, 60 or 75 frames per second, the full frame S5ii only gives you a 30 frames per second option. And I suppose if they're only going to offer one frame rate, 30 is a pretty good place to be, because sometimes 20 simply isn't fast enough, but 60 is a bit over the top in terms of too many wasted frames. It does still allow you to choose a half second, a second, or 1.5 seconds of pre-burst shooting. The other feature that's of most interest to me is a big upgrade to the subject detection autofocus to bring it more in line with the capability we've seen on the G9 II. This new version adds car and motorcycle detection, which we didn't have before. It improves on the recognition and tracking of human subjects, and it upgrades animal detection to now include an animal eye detection option as well. Now, as I'm getting ready to leave for a new African safari, I'm really happy to know that both my cameras offer the same excellent autofocus system. There's also a new high setting on the E-stabilization for video, designed to reduce the effect of large camera shakes when shooting video on the run. It also adds distortion correction, but videographers want to be aware that there's a trade-off with increased cropping of the image to make this possible. Other improvements include proxy video recording, compatibility with the Frame.io platform for easy uploading of stills and video via Wi-Fi, and a few technical fixes as well. You can read a proper description of all these features on the download page for the new firmware. So all in all, it's definitely an upgrade worth having, and now it's time to take you through the process of upgrading the firmware on your Lumix camera. If you've never done this before, it might seem a bit scary to tinker with the inner workings of your camera, but as you'll see, the whole thing is very quick and easy. So first things first, you probably want to check what firmware version you currently have on your camera to see if you're due for an upgrade. And we do this by going down to this fourth section of the menu, and right in the bottom section there, you've got a heading called firmware version. So if I go and click into that, it shows me both the lens firmware for the lens that's currently on the camera, and also the body firmware, which is currently version 2.2. So that clearly tells me I'm due for an upgrade to version 3. Next, before you do the actual firmware update, you want to make sure that you have a fully charged battery, check, and you also want to format your memory card. To format the card, back into the menu, in this same toolbox section of the menu, but now we go to the top area, there's a heading there called Card Format. So go in there, format the memory card you're going to use for the firmware update. Let's go in and do that. Only takes a moment. And then I'm going to turn the camera off, pull the SD card out, and I'm ready to put this into the computer to do the update. So now I've got the memory card in the card reader slot in my computer, and I'm ready to go ahead and do the update. So this is the page where I get my update files from, and I'm going to put a link to this in the information below. Now when you get to this page, you'll see that it's divided into different sections for Lumix cameras. Micro Four Thirds is one entire section, so if I was doing my G9 Mark II at the moment, I'd be using this tab. But because I'm doing the S5 Mark II, I'm going to the section for full frame system cameras. Computer's a bit slow, there we go. And down here I've got the S5 Mark II, and you can see there version 3 came out on April 22nd, so I'm a little bit late to the party. And then it says here, click to the download page. Now on this page you can read up on all the upgrades, and there is a bit of instruction if you need to click into that to tell you how it's done. But I'm just going to go straight ahead and do the download. So it says here, click for the download. Bit of a process to go through just to get there, just got to say yes to all that. And now I believe the download's, oh no, it's still underway. Okay, my internet's running a bit slow today, and that took a couple of minutes, so I've just skipped ahead to save you having to sit through me sitting around doing nothing for a few minutes. But now the file has been successfully downloaded, so I go into my File Explorer area, and you can see now in the Downloads section I've got the file here, S5 Mark II version 3.0.zip. Now it's important to realize you can't transfer the zip file to your SD card. You have to transfer the bin file which is contained within that. So when I double click on this, it automatically extracts the .bin file. Now I'm using an older computer with Windows 10. Now depending on the system you're using, it might not automatically extract. You might have to do a couple of extra clicks of the mouse to extract that bin file. But just remember, when it comes to transferring, you don't transfer the .zip file, you have to transfer the .bin file, so make sure that's been extracted. Now when I select that and copy, all I have to do now is take it down to my Lumix F where the SD card is, and paste that in there. And in just a moment, and you can see how long it's taking in real time, I'll have that file transferred to the SD card, and I'll be able to put that into the camera to complete the final stage of the process. Okay, so now with the firmware update file safely transferred to my SD card, I'm going to put that card back into the camera. And now we're ready to complete the update. So I go back into the menu, back into that firmware section we looked at before, come down here, click into there, and it says firmware update. Now when I click into that, you can see what's happening. It asks you if you want to start the update. I'm just going to say yes. And the camera does the rest. So this can take a little while again, depending on the size of the file update. You can see that's not taking too long there, but you've got to wait for the process to be finished. When that little wheel stops turning and the green line stops growing, then the firmware update's going to be complete. Okay, I'd say that took about a minute in total, and now if you want to confirm that everything's been successful, you can just go back into the menu, click firmware version, and now my camera tells me I've been upgraded to version 3.0, and that's job done. Okay, so that is the process. As you can see, it's not complicated, it doesn't take long, and it will work for pretty much any of your Lumix cameras. Now, it's been pretty wet here lately, so I have had very few opportunities to try out the new features on the S5 Mark II, but that's okay because my next African tour is just around the corner, so stay tuned because I'm going to have plenty of new wildlife images to share very soon. For now, I'm Andrew Goodall, this is Nature's Image Photography, thanks for watching.